Welcome into the Beachside Blitz. I am your host, Patricia Caputo, and to get started with the first segment of today's show of the Beachside Blitz, we are going to get into Seaside Sit-Downs, our first segment of the day. And today joining me is Peyton Young, who is a TCNJ student studying mechanical engineering. But on the side, she does something a little bit interesting with motorsports, and it is called drifting. So we'll get into all of that in a moment. Peyton, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, so for those who don't know, because I'm even just getting familiar with this sport as well, what is drifting?
Drifting is a motorsport where you slide the car sideways within lines on the track and at super high speeds.
So how did you, because this is like such an interesting sport, you know what I mean? It's not like someone has it at school or a program. So how did you get involved and fall in love with the idea of drifting?
I've been into cars for as long as I can remember, and I've been going to sanctioned car meets since I got my license. And about a year ago, one of them was at a nearby track, and I went to it, and I found out it had drifting involved. And I watched it, and I thought it was super cool. And I even wandered into the pits, not knowing I wasn't supposed to be in there. And I met this one girl, and I told her car was super cool. And she said, I have an extra helmet if you want to hop in. And I've been hooked ever since.
So with that, when I was doing some research on you, your parents, like right away, did they not know that you were into drifting?
No, not at all. They knew I was at that event, but when I introduced the idea of wanting to do it, they were completely against it because I actually have a chronic spinal injury that requires surgery to fix when I'm a little bit older. So any catastrophic accident would result in paralysis. So they were completely against it. But once they kind of learned that there are a lot of safety precautions in place, they warmed up to the idea and started to support me.
So let's dive into those safety precautions because I'm looking at it from the outside, kind of unfamiliar with what steps are you taking to ensure that it is safe, even though you are driving a vehicle at a high rate of speed?
Well, first of all, they require a helmet, obviously, to date per standards. If you have like a convertible, they require a roll bar, and if you tandem, which is when two cars drift together, they require a full welded-in cage. And on top of that, if you have harnesses, they have to be up to date. Your seats have to be up to date and bolted in correctly. You have to pass tech, which is certain standards where your car is deemed safe to be on the track. And if you don't get past that, you can't drive.
Okay, I'm very interested in the two cars drifting together. So can you visualize that, since this is radio? Can you visualize that for the viewers? What does that look like, two cars drifting together?
Yeah, so your first car is called the lead, and his or her job is to follow the lines of the track, making sure their back tires are in the spray painted lines that are on there, and the second car is the chase, and his or her job is to close that proximity gap and pretty much be on the lead's door in a super close range.
Okay, and have you done that before?
No, not yet. I'm still working on linking the entire track.
Okay, I love that because that would terrify me even more than what you're doing. But let's talk about the mechanic aspect of it, because you are not just getting in this car and going. You are fixing this car yourself. You're preparing cars yourself. So first off, as we get into that, how did you begin knowing the steps of even how to fix certain pieces on the car?
I didn't at all. I bought the car thinking it was quote-unquote drift ready. And while it had some things set up for it because the previous owner did drift it, it needed a lot of work. The motor wasn't running right. The suspension wasn't working right. The interior wasn't working right. The handbrake wasn't working right. Nothing was working. And so I bought this car thinking, all right, I'm just going to hop in and drift it. But no, it was not that at all. And so I've learned so much along the way. I've pretty much touched every component in that car. I've redone it. I've bought aftermarket parts. I've And I didn't know how to do any of it at all. I learned from YouTube. I learned from friends. I've learned from my boyfriend a lot. None of it was just came up to my head, you know? Like, I didn't work on cars before this. And so a lot of it was just learning through this car.
Now, how far along is the car for it to be drift ready?
In a way, it is drift ready.
Okay.
So it has a huge, like last time I drove, it was a 3-day event. It had a huge lack of power, but since I had just done a lot of suspension upgrades, it handled like a dream compared to my first event. It handled so well. It spun, it corrected itself the exact way I wanted it to. The only thing was the car just wasn't going fast enough. So right now I'm taking apart my whole motor, fixing some of the vacuum leaks and stuff. And so once I put it back together, which is actually really soon, it'll be running so much better. And so it should have that power it needs to fully commit.
And what does a typical day in the life of a drifting event look like for the drifters? Is that what you call yourself, a drifter? Okay, perfect. I got it right.
Drifter, drift car driver, whatever.
Okay, perfect. So what does a typical day in the life of that event look like for you?
Very hectic. So obviously you have to make sure the car is working right. You have to get your tires because you go through a set every few laps. And so you have to load your tires up. It depends if you're staying there or not. Like, I usually do overnight events, so I have to get like a van or something to sleep in or a tent. It depends if you're towing the car. You got to strap that up and get it ready. You got to bring all of your tools. You got to bring air pumps. You got to bring extra fluids. You got to bring anything you might need just in case, oil, anything. And you got to pack that all up and you got to bring it there. Then you have to unload it. And then finally you can get your car ready to drive. And that's if nothing breaks.
So the tires. So we're going to dive deep into everything, but the tires themselves, so do you have like your own crew that's changing the tires as you go, or are you going on, if you need to change it, you're changing these tires?
I change them immediately. I have them already mounted on the wheel. I just, jack the car up, take the tire off, put the new one on, and just go.
How long does that process take?
Like 30 seconds.
For all four?
No, I only change the back two. So it's a rear-wheel drive car.
Gotcha.
So those are the only two that are spinning on the track.
But it's 30 seconds to do both of them.
Give or take.
That's really impressive. So you get out of the car and do it. Good to go, get back in.
Yeah.
Okay. And then now let's talk about the costs of all of this, because I think like you're talking about packing everything. So let's just say you're going to an event, you're checking off, I need this, and that. How much would you say in general that costs?
So again, it depends on what your setup is looking like. I usually grab one of my father's company vans, so that's how I transport all of my stuff, and that's where I sleep. You have like a U-Haul that's usually about $200 for how many days you're doing. I'll just do that as a rough estimate. I usually have to run out and grab some fluids. It's about $50, or I'll have some on me. And then driving fees usually depend on the track. I'll just rough estimate from $80 to $150 per event or per day.
Okay, yeah, so all of this truthfully adds up. It's not so much a sport where you could just say, yep, I'm going to go do it, and not have a set plan for you to go out there. With that being said, you mentioned how your parents were a little bit nervous, but your dad has now especially been so supportive of you and willing to help you. So can you dive into that and his support throughout this whole process?
So my father saw how much I actually put into it, being as I bought the car, registered and insured it, and then I started working on it, how to find a way to transport it home. And he saw that I was putting every last cent that I had into this car. And then he decided that his company would sponsor me. And so I wouldn't have been able to do it without him. The help that he has given me has been able to fund this build that I have today. And on top of that, he was so proud of me that he reached out to a bunch of news stations, and CBS Philadelphia got back to me and decided to come out and interview me, and they want to do a follow-up interview once I'm steadily out there on the track. And my mom has warmed up to the idea, and she's come and visit me some of the days that I've been driving, and I see her while I'm driving. I look out and I see her up there cheering and flailing her arms, and I know she's just so proud of me.
I love that so much. And on the idea of sponsors, you mentioned that your dad is sponsoring you, but you have a few other sponsors. So mention that process of getting sponsors to be able to say, I want to support you. I'm going to support you in this process. And there's incentives here for both you and the business.
So unless you're really famous, you don't really have sponsors reaching out to you. I mostly had to reach out to them and be like, hey, I'm a grassroots drifter, and I really would love your support. This is my story. Anything you could do, I'll appreciate. Anything I can do for you in return would be super helpful. And so a few of them have got back to me and be like, hey, yeah, we can offer you a discount, and you can, run our product and add some stickers, and it would be like a mutual beneficial partnership. And so I've had a few companies do that for me. And I have a new one, Sideway City. They're a company out in Atlanta, Georgia, and they teach people how to drift. They can do ride-alongs, and they're up and coming too. So we're working on a partnership right now as well. I actually met with them today. And those have been super helpful towards my build as well. And I couldn't have done it without them either.
And when you compare this to the maybe quote-unquote mainstream sports, you have football and softball and baseball where there's such large communities. How do you look at this community of drifters, and how do you meet people that are similar to you, that share the same passion that you do?
I love this community more than anything in the whole world. That's actually why I got into it. It wasn't even for the love of the feeling, and not even for the love of the cars, which, it was, but not completely. It was just the love of the people that are part of it, and meeting these people and seeing how accepting they were and helpful they were, and they'll drop anything to come help you with your car, and if you need something like a tool, they have it, they'll help you. It was so accepting, and that's definitely a community I want to be part of and that I want to expand. It's just surreal.
For those who maybe are saying, I want to get into drifting, or I just want to see what it's about and go watch it. I know I just like watching a bunch of different sports. Like I went to a polo meet one day. I was like, why am I going to see polo? But I'll go. Oh, yeah, I'll go. So for those who maybe are saying, I want to go watch someone drift, where can they go find these events?
There's tracks everywhere, believe it or not. There's about 3 near me. I'm in Ewing. There's Evergreen Raceway up in the Poconos. There's Englishtown in Englishtown, New Jersey. And then there's Wall Stadium, which is about 45 minutes from here. They have a bunch of grassroots events. They have professional events. You can do ride-alongs. You could just watch the competitions unfold. Anything you want to see, it's just look it up and it's nearby.
Now, I feel like the elephant in the room here for you is that only 10% of women and girls are involved in motorsports. And you've taken this by storm. And there are multiple other women who have said, I deserve a seat here too. So what is that process like, saying you, in a sense, there's a lot more men in this field, but you're going to go in there and it doesn't matter because you want to make a name for yourself as well as a female?
I've gotten a lot of backlash for being a woman in motorsports. And most of it has come from my closest friends, believe it or not. It hurt a lot, but it more fueled me than hurt me. And it just makes me want to do better and prove those people wrong. But on the bright side, all of the women that I have found that are in drifting just make it so worth it, so much better. And there's a whole community, DK Ladies League, there's a whole community for ladies in drifting. Any ages, anybody, you can go out and you can drift with them. The good outweighs the bad. But the bad, it's just all about how you deal with it.
And if you don't mind me asking, are you willing to open up, like, what they said? Why were they so negative about something you're so passionate about?
It was mostly because they're at a higher skill level than me and because they're older than me. It's less about the skill of driving and more about fixing the car. Like, I've had some of my closest friends bet on how many laps my car would make before it broke. And I proved that about 2 weeks ago about 20 times over again. I've had as low as 3 laps being bet against me, and I made about 30 that whole weekend. So it makes me proud of myself, really. And it just makes me want to prove them wrong more. But it's not even about that. It's just I love the sport so much. And it's so fun for me, and I love learning. And it's right up my alley with my major, so it's just what I've always loved to do.
Yeah, so it's kind of intertwined, that mechanical engineering and your major with it. That how have you used those skills that you're learning in college to say, oh, wait, I could fix this part of the car, or I can use this knowledge to be able to drift better, so to speak?
So engineers have to do a lot more than you think. And I've actually learned this a lot more recently, that it's less about the design and more about judgment and safety in terms of your design. And so I'm fixing parts of my car, and some of the parts are even missing because of the previous owner, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, is this safe? Or is this like actually functional? Can I rig this up to be useful, you know? And so I've actually like used my judgment in ways to fabricate stuff, like especially with my seat. I took apart my stock seat and I put a bucket seat on it, and it was kind of wiggly, so I fabricated my own bracket to keep it together and keep it from moving. And so my bucket seat is now adjustable with power seats. So I've used that and a lot of other things to, like, here and there, just to make it more convenient for me while I'm driving.
That's so awesome. And it really does show that having that education background of it can be used for so many other things, or your passions, truthfully. And for those who might be saying, I want to get into drifting, but I'm nervous, I don't know how, maybe people are going to doubt me, what would you say to them?
Do it. I'll say it a million times over. It does not matter what other people think. If it'll make you happy, then do it. It's plain and simple. People doubted me. People hated on me. People said I couldn't do it. And guess what? I did. Because I knew I could. It takes time. And the thing is, like, you can get a drift car, and if you don't have the money for it or something, you let it sit. That's the name of the game. You let it sit, and then you get parts over time. You know, take your time. If you're too scared, you know, take a breather. Maybe get a private day. Go into a parking lot. You just take it. That's the thing about drifting, is you can go at your own pace, and you could do it at your own being.
And when it's all said and done, for maybe a few years now, you graduate college, where do you see yourself? Where do you see drifting taking you for essentially the rest of your life?
I see drifting more as fun, but I think it'll definitely bring me into that community of being able to incorporate cars with my engineering degree, which is what I want to do. So I think that broadens the community of who I know and who I'm able to work with and find exactly what I want to do.
Yeah, and I just love that idea, because, again, it's not something that we see every day, right? It's not so much a sport that we're saying, oh, yeah, go and see this, right? So last question as we wrap things up, the competition aspect. Because I don't know a lot about it, how do you determine this is who wins, this is who loses, and this is how we call it a night?
So I don't compete yet.
Okay.
But I am very into the competition. I love watching them. So, like I said before, the lead is the first car in a tandem.
Gotcha.
His or her job is to keep their back tires in the designated lines for the entire time. So they have to get the outer zones, the inner zones. They have to follow that perfect lines and be a good lead. The chase, his or her job is to keep that proximity and close the gap between the lead car and themselves. But they can't hit them, they can't tap them, or else that could be like a foul or something, whatever. And so they get judged on that, and then after that they switch. The chase car becomes the lead car becomes chase car, and then they have the same roles.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then they get judged on that. So there's usually judges. Whoever is decided the best lead and chase, whatever, moves on, and there's usually a bracket. And then until there's one winner.
Okay. So I see some drifting competitions in my future. I won't be doing it, but I will be watching because doing it scares me a little bit, and I give you a lot of credit for having the courage to do that. But the next time you have some events, let us know, because we'll keep it right here on the Beachside Blitz and let everybody update on all the drifting events here in New Jersey. Well, Peyton, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, we're so happy. That was Peyton Young talking a little bit about drifting in the New Jersey area. She lives in Ewing now, and yeah, she just talked about her drifting career right here on the segment of Seaside Sit Downs. So this is the Beachside Blitz. We will be right back after a word from our sponsors. You just heard from Peyton Young and a little bit of information on her passion of drifting in motorsports. We'll be right back.